Chapter 5.4 Calvinism, one of the most influential Protestant faiths. Calvinism developed from the teachings of John Calvin. Born July 10, 1509 in Noyon, France, Jehan Calvin was an only child in a religious Roman Catholic family. His father, Gerard, served as an administrator of the town's cathedral. Initially, Gerard wanted his son to be a priest. Calvin moved to Paris to study first at College de Marche and College Montaigu. There he changed his name to the Latin Ionis Calvinus, which in French became Jean-John Calvin. While in Paris, Calvin made friends with a variety of reformers and, following his father's updated advice, began to study law. After getting his law degree, Calvin had to escape Paris because some of his friends put their opposition to the Roman Catholic Church in writing and were making inflammatory speeches. In 1533, Calvin joined the reform movement begun by Martin Luther. He spent 3 years in hiding before producing Institutio Christiani Religionis, Institutes of the Christian Religion, in 1541. It became a bestseller. The book remains in print today and serves as a guide to Protestant theology. Calvinism was best known for predestination. The idea that whether someone is saved or not is set in heaven, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Adherents took material success as an indication that someone had God's favor, an idea that still runs through American society. Eventually, Calvin moved to Geneva, Switzerland, to become the dictatorial leader of the government, imposing a harsh religious regiment on the citizens in an effort to root out all Catholic aspects, including clerical clothing, wedding rings, organ music in church, kneeling during communion. The word priest, and making the sign of the cross during church rituals. A kind of religion police was empowered to inspect people's houses to ascertain they behaved according to Calvin's ordinances. Rosaries and relics were forbidden, and it became illegal to name children after saints. Immoral. Where Catholic books were prescribed, art, music with instruments, dancing, and theater were no longer allowed. The colors of clothing, hairstyles, and amounts of food permissible at the table were regulated. Gambling, drunkenness, adultery, promiscuity, immodest dress, profane songs, idolatry, heresy, and speaking ill of the clergy were punished, often by exile or execution. The press was severely censored. Education, which Calvin regarded as inseparable from religion, was carefully regulated. New schools were established, with emphasis on arithmetic, writing, and history in primary school, and Latin, Greek, and Hebrew in secondary schools to facilitate study of the Bible. Charity was placed under municipal administration to eliminate begging. Hectone International Journal of Medical Humanities. https://hecant.org/2019/05/28/ John Calvin, His Rule in Geneva and His Many Illnesses. During his reign from 1541 until his death in 1564, Calvin oversaw the execution of 58 people, including most famously Michael Severus, a noted scientist and deist who denied the existence of the Trinity. The Geneva ruling council roasted him slowly over green wood to emphasize their rejection of his opinions. Calvin's attitude was not helped by several chronic ailments, including hemorrhoids and constipation. He eventually died probably of tuberculosis, but his religious views inspired the Puritans who settled in Massachusetts, as well as Protestants worldwide, while Calvinism as a religion has been swallowed up by different Protestant sects. Dernmay. Founder Sabbatai Sevi, his name has been spelled a variety of ways in quoted documents, was born in Smyrna, Turkey in August 1626, on the sad holiday, Tisha B'Av in Hebrew, during which Jews traditionally commemorate the destruction of both the first and second temples. That year the holiday fell on a Saturday. Hence, the baby was named Sabbatai, a traditional name then for boys born on the Jewish Sabbath. After a career spent attacking and changing Jewish traditions, he confronted the Arabic leader of his day, converted to Islam to avoid being impaled, and spent the rest of his life trying to convert Jews to Islam. He died in Albanian exile on his 50th birthday. The religion that developed from his merger of Islam and Judaism is known as Dönme, Turkish for apostates or converts, and may or may not still exist. By World War I, there were an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 believers left. At one point, Kemal Ataturk, founder of modern Turkey, was accused by his enemies of being a member of the sect. David Bey, Turkey's finance minister under Ataturk, definitely belonged. Members remained isolated from both the Islamic and Jewish worlds, but lost their aura of secrecy when forced to flee from their Turkish center during World War I. Mingling with other religions, they were either absorbed into Judaism or Islam, although some may silently cling to the faith. Israeli historian Abba Eban said people who believe in Sevi as the Messiah still exist, as does Prof. Karen Armstrong, although the Encyclopedia Judaica says the last members in Poland died out in the middle of the 20th century. Dönme combines elements of Judaism and Islam. Formed during Sevi's lifetime by followers who converted to Islam after interpreting their leader's conversion to Islam as a secret mission, deliberately undertaken with a particular mystic purpose in mind, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica. Dönme split into 3 distinct branches with one sect, like Islam, consisting of members of the original community and accorded higher honors. Members of all sects retained their Jewish beliefs and did not intermarry with Muslims. One group launched a missionary campaign claiming the kingdom of God was coming and focusing on the years 1720 to 1726. The effort was built around Barakiah Russo, who declared himself the reincarnation of Sevi. His death in 1720 slowed the revivalists, although regular pilgrimages to Russo's grave continued into the 1920s. To Dönme's members, the religion represents the true Jewish faith. In that way, they parallel early Christians as well as Muslims. Both claim that the earlier religion had failed to follow God and that they were now on the correct path. In addition, Sevi's followers believe that their leader had moved beyond the commandments in the Bible and substituted a spiritual Torah. Like Christians, they have a spring festival called the Festival of the Lamb, which seems to be a combination of Easter and Passover. Sevi's main advocate in the 1600s, Rabbi Nathan of Gaza, saw the similarities. He admitted to being fascinated by the problem of Sevi's relationship with Jesus and other earlier messianic figures like Bar Kochba, a Jewish nationalist who led a war against the Romans early in the 2nd century CE. To resolve that, Nathan claimed Sevi embodied Bar Kochba's spirit. In many ways, Jesus and Sevi lived parallel lives, from heavenly proclamations at birth to family and career. Christians naturally insisted that Dönme simply copied the story of Jesus. After all, Sevi lived 1,600 years later than Jesus. Nevertheless, that does not seem likely for several reasons. 1. Some of the parallels are fortuitous, ranging from his family's move from one area to another around the time of Sevi's birth, to the fact his father died early in his life. Jesus' family relocated, according to the Gospels, and his father, Joseph, quickly disappears from the New Testament account. 2. The followers of Sevi were mostly devout Jews, probably completely unaware of Jesus' biography. Jews forcefully converted to Christianity, but who remained secretly true to their faith, did inject Christian thought into the Sabbatian movement. But their ideas were heretical rather than part of the Orthodox Christian movement. 3. Israel then was under Muslim rule with little contact or no influence from Christianity. For example, there were perhaps 300 Jewish families in all of Jerusalem at the time Sevi was there. Jerusalem was the only place in Israel that contained any significant number of Christian churches. Had the parallels been to the life of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, which Jews of the region could not have avoided knowing, then any linkage would be more plausible. 4. Written material about the life of Jesus were not circulated widely. The printing press had been introduced into Europe only 150 years earlier, and its use was not that common. Books were still rare, publishing was often restricted by monarchs. It was unlikely any Jewish scholars would devote much time for the study of, or money for the purchase of Christian documents. 5. The currents of Messianic thought flowed steadily in Jewish writings. No one would have had to refer to Christian guides to discover what a Messiah should do. The actions are all spelled out in the available and cherished Jewish scriptures. Indeed, Hugh Schonfield's popular and highly implausible 11,965 book, The Passover Plot, is based on the view that Jesus and his followers knew by reading the sacred texts exactly what a Messiah should do, and then deliberately emulated the requirements. 6. Mostly, followers of both men faced a similar problem: failure of their master's mission and contradiction of deep-felt hopes that the Messiah would introduce a new era. To maintain their beliefs, supporters were obligated to reject what they experienced and seek some hidden meaning, one that ironically spurned traditional Jewish values. 7. There are differences. Among others, Jesus is not described as having married. Sevi had at least 3 wives and probably 4. Jesus came from a community considered to be part of the Holy Land. Sevi was born outside Israel. Jesus was crucified, a horrible, agonizing death. Sevi died in bed, possibly of an intestinal ailment. It is important to note that the two beliefs are also radically different in other areas, reflecting the personalities of the messianic figures, the varied events in their lives, and their manner of death. After Sevi died, some of his followers drifted back to Judaism. Others, in disgust, converted to Islam or Christianity. However, some were sure Sevi would return to fulfill his divine mission to free Israel from Muslim rule and create a Jewish state. Dernmay was the result. Believers follow a basic tenet that Sevi was a prophet of God. They accept the Bible and outwardly appear to be Muslim. In that way, they resemble Marrano Jews in Spain who were outwardly Catholic while actually following Jewish laws. Dernmay members reject alcohol and are required to pray twice a day.